BNP Jamaat again started arson terrorism. All should remain alert, says Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina while inaugurating 50 more model mosques and Islamic cultural centers. Awami League holds protest rallies across the country against BNP's arson terrorism. Tariq Zia instructing world leaders of BNP to set buses on fire and create violence, says Information and Broadcasting Minister Dr. Hassan Mahmood. Dhaka North City Corporation starts to use BTI to destroy Aedes mosquito sources today. And Saudi Arabia will hold Ukraine peace summit without Russia. Putin does not reject possibility of peace talks. Assalamu alaikum viewers, this is News at 10 on BTV and BTV World. I'm Imtiaz Ahmed Siddiqui. You just heard the headlines. Let's move on to the detailed stories.
আমাদের মতো জাতিসমূহ যাদের অভ্যুদয় সংগ্রাম ও ত্যাগের মধ্যে দিয়ে এই আদর্শ বিশ্বাসী তাদের বাঁচিয়ে রাখবে। আমাদের কষ্ট স্বীকার করতে হতে পারে, কিন্তু আমাদের ধ্বংস নেই। এ জীবন যুদ্ধের মোকাবেলায় জনগণের প্রতিরোধ ক্ষমতা ও দৃঢ় প্রতিজ্ঞাই শেষ কথা। আত্মনির্ভরশীলই আমাদের লক্ষ্য।
Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has called upon all to remain alert, as none can recapitulate 2013-14 like arson terrorism in the country in the name of movement. The Premier was inaugurating 50 more model mosques and Islamic cultural centers in 34 districts in 8 divisions in the 5th phase, joining virtually from Ganobhavan in Dhaka today. With the fresh ones, she has so far opened 250 mosques out of 564 being built at a cost of 9,435 crore taka across the country. Referring to torching several buses yesterday by BNP, she said, "People know their character well. They are terrorists. They even yesterday torched several buses. They burned people to death alive during 2013-14, setting fire to moving buses, launches and trains." The Prime Minister said the people of the country witnessed BNP's terrible appearance yesterday as they did arson terrorism again. The Premier asked the alim ulama, imam and muazzin to preach the mosques during the prayers, particularly Jummah prayers, about the social menaces as the youths can stay away from militancy, terrorism, drugs, corruption and other curses.
সবথেকে বড় একটা মসজিদ নির্মাণের কাজ শুরু করেছিলাম। খালেদা জিয়ার বক্তব্য ছিল এত বড় মসজিদে আবার কে যাবে নামাজ পড়তে, সেটার কাজও বন্ধ করে দিয়েছিল। এমনকি তার মিনারগুলিও তৈরি করতে দেয়নি। আমি দ্বিতীয়বার সরকারে এসে সেই মসজিদটা নির্মাণ করি। তা ইসলাম ধর্মের নামে রাজনীতি করে, কিন্তু ধর্মীয় কাজে তাদের কোনো আন্তরিকতা ছিল না, যা ছিল শুধু দেখানো। এটাই হচ্ছে। আর তাদের চরিত্র তো জানেনি, এরা তো একেবারে সন্ত্রাসী, অগ্নি সন্ত্রাসী। গতকালকেও দেখেছেন কতগুলি বাস পুড়িয়েছে। এর আগে মানুষকে জীবন্ত মানুষগুলি পুড়িয়ে পুড়িয়ে হত্যা করেছে। কোনো মানুষ এভাবে পেট্রোল বোমা দিয়ে বা মানে আগুন দিয়ে মানে চলন্ত গাড়ি, বাস, ট্রেন, লঞ্চ, কোনো অফিস, কোনো কিছু তারা বাদ দেয়নি। স্কুল, এগুলি যেমন 2013-14-তে পুড়িয়েছে, গতকালকেও তাদের সেই ভয়ঙ্কর অগ্নি সন্ত্রাসের রূপ আমরা আবার দেখলাম। তো বাংলাদেশের জন্য এই ধরনের সন্ত্রাসীরা আবার দেশের ক্ষতি করতে না পারে, সেজন্য সকলের কাছে আমার আহ্বান থাকলো, এই জঙ্গিবাদ সন্ত্রাসকে আমরা জিরো টলারেন্স, এই পথে বাংলাদেশে কেউ যাবে না, সেই সিদ্ধান্ত নিয়েই এটা করা। কাজে এখান থেকে যদি আমি মনে করি যে আপনারা এই ধর্মীয় দৃষ্টিকোণ থেকে বা যখন শুক্রবারে আপনারা খুতবা পড়েন, সেখানেও যদি এই যে সামাজিক বিষয়গুলি এগুলি সম্পর্কে মানুষকে যদি সচেতন করেন, তাহলে প্রত্যেকটা অভিভাবক সচেতন থাকবেন যেন আমাদের কোমলমতি শিশুরা তারা যেন এই ধরনের জঙ্গিবাদ, সন্ত্রাস বা দুর্নীতি বা এই ধরনের কোনো অসামাজিক কার্যকলাপের সাথে সম্পৃক্ত না হয়।
State Minister for Religious Affairs Mohammad Faridul Haq Khan spoke at the function. Prime Minister's Principal Secretary Mohammad Tafazul Hussain Mia moderated the program, and Religious Affairs Secretary Mohammad A. Hamid Jamaddar gave the welcome address. Information and Broadcasting Minister and Awami League Joint General Secretary Dr. Asad Mahmood has said Tariq Zia is instructing ward-level leaders of BNP over phone to set vehicles on fire and create anarchy. He made the comment while addressing a protest rally organized by Chattogram North District Awami League protesting arson, terrorism and anarchy of BNP Jamaat at Dost Building compound in Chattogram this afternoon.
গত পরশুদিন ঢাকায় বিএনপি সমাবেশ করেছে এবং একই সাথে আমাদের যুবলীগ, ছাত্রলীগ, স্বেচ্ছাসেবক লীগ যৌথভাবে বিশাল সমাবেশ করেছে এবং সেখানে এত বড় সমাবেশ হওয়ার প্রেক্ষিতেও মাত্র 100 কিলোমিটার দূরত্বে দুইটি বিশাল সমাবেশ হয়েছে, কিন্তু ঢাকা শহরে বিন্দুমাত্র কোনো গন্ডগোল হয় নাই। কারণ আমাদের দলের নেতাকর্মীরা সতর্ক দৃষ্টি রেখেছিল, প্রশাসন সতর্ক দৃষ্টি রেখেছিল। গন্ডগোল কেন হলো না, সেজন্য বিএনপির নেতাদের উপর চটেছে তাদের ভারপ্রাপ্ত চেয়ারম্যান তারেক রহমান এবং গন্ডগোল করার উদ্দেশ্যে ঢাকা শহরের প্রবেশ মুখগুলোতে অবস্থান ধর্মঘট অর্থাৎ অবরুদ্ধ করার কর্মসূচি ঘোষণা করে। আমাদের দলের নেতাকর্মীদের শান্তিপূর্ণ অবস্থানের উপর তারা আক্রমণ চালিয়েছে, পুলিশের উপর আক্রমণ চালিয়েছে। ঠিক 13, 14, 15 সালে যেভাবে তারা আক্রমণ চালিয়েছে, ঠিক একইভাবে তারা গতকাল ঢাকা শহরে বিভিন্ন জায়গায় পুলিশের উপরে, জনগণের উপরে, জনগণের গাড়ির উপরে, বাসের উপরে আক্রমণ চালিয়েছে। বিএনপি নেত্রী নিপুণ রায়ের বক্তব্য অডিও ভাইরাল হয়েছে সামাজিক যোগাযোগ মাধ্যমে। আগুন দেওয়ার নির্দেশ দিচ্ছে, আবার বলছে এটা একটু ভিডিও করে রাখিও, জায়গা মতো পাঠাতে হবে। অর্থাৎ তাদের ভারপ্রাপ্ত চেয়ারম্যানের কাছে পাঠাতে হবে। এবং তারেক জিয়া নিজে ফোন করে করে ওয়ার্ড লেভেলে নির্দেশ দিচ্ছে গাড়িতে আগুন দেওয়ার জন্য, গাড়ি ঘোড়া ভাঙচুর করার জন্য, পুলিশের উপর আক্রমণ করার জন্য। তারেক জিয়া নিজে ঢাকা শহরের ওয়ার্ড লেভেলের নেতাদের কাছে তারেক জিয়া নিজে টেলিফোন করে করে বার্তা দিচ্ছে। সেই প্রমাণ আমাদের হাতে আছে। মির্জা ফখরুল ইসলাম আলমগীর সাহেব গতকাল একটি সংবাদ সম্মেলন করেছে, তারা যে আগুন দিয়েছে সেটি অস্বীকার করলেন। মির্জা ফখরুল ইসলাম আলমগীর সাহেবের মতো এরকম এখন জঘন্য মিথ্যাবাদী বাংলাদেশে কখনো জন্মগ্রহণ করে নাই। মিথ্যাবালায় যদি কেউ চ্যাম্পিয়ন হয়, নির্লজ্জ মিথ্যাচারী, জঘন্য মিথ্যাচারী, সন্ত্রাসী মিথ্যাচারী, তার মিথ্যায় আল্লাহর আরশ কাঁপতেছে। এবং এরকম মিথ্যাবাদী রাজনীতিবিদ বাংলাদেশে কখনো জন্মগ্রহণ করে না। মির্জা ফখরুল বাংলাদেশে বিশ্বাস করে কিনা সন্দেহ আছে। কয়দিন আগে বক্তব্য রেখেছে যে পাকিস্তান আমলে ভালো ছিল। আমি কারো বাবা নিয়ে কথা বলতে চাই না, কথার পিঠে কথা আছে বিদায় বলছি। স্বাধীনতার পর মির্জা ফখরুল ইসলাম আলমগীর সাহেব, তার বাবা একসাথে আত্মগোপনে ছিল এবং পরে আস্তে আস্তে আত্মগোপন থেকে বের হয়েছিল। উনি হচ্ছে বিএনপির মহাসচিব। এই ধরনের একজন জঘন্য মিথ্যুক ব্যক্তি হচ্ছে বিএনপির মহাসচিব।
President of Chattogram North District Awami League M.A. Salam and General Secretary Sheikh Ataur Rahman also addressed the rally, among others. Later, leaders and activists of the party brought out a protest procession. Dhaka City North Jubo League held a protest rally at Mohakali in the capital today, protesting the killing conspiracy and fire terrorism of BNP Jamaat. Central Jubo League chairman Sheikh Fazle Shams Porosh was present as the chief guest at the rally. Presided over by Dhaka City North Jubo League President Zakir Hussain Babul, the rally was also addressed by Central Jubo League General Secretary Moinul Islam Khan Nikhil and Dhaka City North Jubo League General Secretary Ismail Hussain Ismail. Dhaka City North Awami League held a protest rally at Mohammadpur in the capital today as part of a nationwide protest program against the killing conspiracy and anarchy of BNP Jamaat. Dhaka City North Awami League President Sheikh Bazlur Rahman, lawmaker Sadiq Khan and other leaders of the city addressed the rally. A protest rally was held at Dhaka 14 constituency. Leaders and activists from all the Thana and ward units of the constituency and all the associated and affiliated organizations participated at the rally. Led by freedom fighter Aga Khan Mintu MP, the procession started from the MP's Public Relations Office and circled different roads of Dhaka 14 constituency. Bangladesh Chhatra League held a protest rally at TSC premises of Dhaka University in the capital today as part of a nationwide protest program against the killing conspiracy and anarchy of BNP Jamaat. President of the organization Saddam Hussain presided over the rally. Information and Broadcasting Minister and Awami League Joint General Secretary Dr. Hassan Mahmood has said the country is now passing a transitional period. Dr. Hassan Mahmood said a conspiracy is going on to destroy the rule of law in the country. Dr. Hassan Mahmood said journalists will have to report against incidents like burning people to death, setting vehicles on fire and handing over the country to world agents for the sake of personal interests in the name of doing politics. The reports will assist to form public opinions against evil powers, he added. The Information and Broadcasting Minister made these comments while addressing the program of handing over check of donations from Bangladesh Journalist Welfare Trust established by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Chattogram Union of Journalists organized the function at Bangabandhu Hall in Chattogram Press Club this evening. Presided over by President of Chattogram Union of Journalists Topon Chakraborty and conducted by General Secretary M. Shamsul Islam, the function was also addressed by Vice President of BFUJ Shahidul Alam, Member of Journalist Welfare Trust Kolib Sharwar, former President of Chattogram Press Club Ali Abbas and General Secretary Devdulal Bhaumik. The Minister handed over a cheque of Taka 34 lakh among 42 journalists at the program. The dengue situation in the country is worsening day by day. A press release of the Directorate General of Health Services said 8 more dengue patients died in the last 24 hours. Of them, 4 were in Dhaka and 4 were outside Dhaka. 2,731 dengue patients were admitted to different hospitals across the country during the last 24 hours. Among them, 1,184 dengue patients were hospitalized in Dhaka city and 1,547 patients outside Dhaka. Meanwhile, no patient died of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. The country reported 59 COVID-19 positive cases as 1,248 tested in the last 24 hours. Corona infection rate was reported at 4.73%. Dhaka North City Corporation has started the use of Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis or BTI to kill mosquito larvae before they can complete their life cycle. If the use of BTI is effective, then the city corporation would apply BTI bacteria throughout the year. Dhaka North City Corporation imported 5 metric tons of BTI bacteria from Singapore. The move was initiated by Mayor Atiqul Islam and suggested by the experts. Salim Reza, Chief Executive Officer of Dhaka North City Corporation, confirmed this to Bangladesh television in an interview. He said the dengue menace could be reduced within a few days by applying BTI bacteria properly. Entomologists and researchers said BTI bacteria are very effective in killing mosquito larvae, but BTI does not control biting adult mosquitoes. Various countries, including the United States, Singapore, India, Thailand and Malaysia, have had success in destroying mosquito larvae by applying BTI bacteria. BTI would not affect the environment. However, they suggested applying the BTI properly. Dhaka North City Corporation said it is hiring 2 experts from Singapore to train its employees to spread BTI. Dhaka North City Corporation is also thinking of applying BTI bacteria to destroy Aedes mosquitoes. Awami League candidate Mohiuddin Bachchu was unofficially elected in the by-election of the Chattogram 10 constituency held today. Mohiuddin Bachchu bagged 52,923 votes, while his nearest candidate, Mohammad Shamsul Alam of Jatiya Party, got 1,572 votes. Chattogram 10 seat fell vacant following the death of lawmaker Ashraful Amin on June 2nd this year. Now international news. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said he does not reject the idea of peace talks on Ukraine. Speaking at a press conference after meeting African leaders in St. Petersburg, he said an African and Chinese initiative could serve as a basis for finding peace. President Putin said it was hard to implement a ceasefire when the Ukrainian army was on the offensive. Putin said the late-night press conference that there were no plans to intensify action on the Ukrainian front for now. The Russia-Africa summit comes after an African contingent, including leaders and representatives from 7 countries, met Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and President Putin last month. Ukraine wants its borders as they were in 1991 to be reinstated, something the Kremlin is deeply opposed to. Moscow argues instead that for negotiations to take place, Kyiv would have to accept its country's new territorial reality. 3 Ukrainian drones were downed over Moscow early Sunday, Russia's defense ministry said in an attack that briefly shut an international airport. While one of the drones was shot down on the city's outskirts, 2 others were suppressed by electronic warfare and smashed into an office complex. No one was injured. Moscow and its environs, lying about 500 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, had been rarely targeted during the conflict in Ukraine until several drone attacks this year. The attack reported Sunday in the latest in a series of recent drone assaults, including on the Kremlin and Russian towns near the border with Ukraine that Moscow has blamed on Kyiv. Moscow also said on Sunday its forces had thwarted a Ukrainian attempt to attack Russia-annexed Crimea with 25 drones overnight. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia plans to host talks next weekend to discuss a path towards peace in Ukraine, convening representatives from Kyiv, Western powers and developing countries. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki has expressed concern about the movement of Russian Wagner forces in Belarus towards the Polish border. Morawiecki told a news conference, "We have information that more than 100 Wagner mercenaries have advanced towards the Suwalki Gap, not far from Gorondo in Belarus. This makes the situation on the border even more threatening," Morawiecki warned during a visit to an arms factory in Gliwice in southern Poland. Poland, a member of both the European Union and NATO, is worried about its security with Russian ally Belarus and Ukraine on its eastern border. Tens of thousands of flag-waving Israelis have staged new nationwide protests days after Prime Minister Netanyahu pushed through a highly contested law that limited some Supreme Court powers. Protesters beating drums and blaring horns took to the streets in cities including northern Galilee and central Tel Aviv for the 30th consecutive week on Saturday in a show of opposition towards the judicial overhaul. The first part of the Netanyahu's reform package, which has become known as the Reasonableness Clause Bill, was ratified by the Knesset, Israel's parliament, on Monday, sparking an unprecedented crisis and opening up a deep social divide. Political watchdog groups have appealed to the Supreme Court to strike down Monday's bill, which removes the High Court's authority to void what it deems unreasonable decisions by the government. At least 12 people have been killed and more than 100 others injured after an explosion ripped through a fireworks warehouse in southern Thailand, officials said. The blast in the town of Sungai Kolok in the southern province of Narathiwat on Saturday is thought to have been caused by welding during construction work on the building, the provincial governor said. The Narathiwat province's public relations department said more than 200 households were affected. It said that officials believe there are still a number of people trapped under the debris. The blast caused damage in a radius of about 500 meters, it said. Now some other international news in brief. The United States will help Australia produce guided multiple launch rocket systems by 2025, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said in Brisbane. Austin and Secretary of State Antony Blinken were in Queensland State for the annual Australia-US Ministerial AUSMIN dialogue with their Australian counterparts.
Strengthen our defence industries and military personnel from Australia, the US and
the United States has announced $345 million in military aid for Taiwan, ramping up support for the self-ruled island that is claimed by China. The package will include defense articles, military education and training. Russia persistently builds up the might of its navy that will receive 30 combat ships of various classes this year alone, Russian President Vladimir Putin said at the main naval parade on the occasion of Russia's Navy Day on Sunday. A total of 20,656 people in Shijiazhuang, capital of North China's Hebei province, have been evacuated as the province has been experiencing continuous heavy rainfall since Friday due to Typhoon Doksuri, the fifth typhoon of this year. Ruins of a private theatre belonging to the 1st century Roman Emperor Nero have been unearthed in the Italian capital, just meters from the Vatican, in what experts are calling an exceptional find. And now weather. Met Office in its weather forecast till 6 p.m. tomorrow said light to moderate rain or thunder showers accompanied by temporary gusty wind is likely to occur at many places over Rangpur, Mymensingh, Khulna, Chattogram and Sylhet divisions and at a few places over Rajshahi, Dhaka and Borishal divisions, with moderately heavy falls at places over the country. Day and night temperature may fall slightly over the country, said the Met Office. And now sports news. The fourth day's play of the fifth and final test between England and Australia in Ashes series is stopped due to rain at Oval. Chasing the victory target of 384 runs, Australia has scored 135 without any loss before the rain interrupted the match. England started today's batting in the second innings with an overnight score of 389 runs for 9 wickets. England were bowled out for 395 in their second innings. Australia were bowled out for 295 against England's first innings total of 283. Australia are leading the 5-match series by 2-1. To end the bulletin headlines, once again. BNP Jamaat again started arson terrorism. All should remain alert, says Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina while inaugurating 50 more model mosques and Islamic cultural centers. Awami League holds protest rallies across the country against BNP's arson terrorism. Tariq Zia instructing world leaders of BNP to set buses on fire and create violence, says Information and Broadcasting Minister Dr. Hassan Mahmood. Dhaka North City Corporation starts to use BTI to destroy Aedes mosquito sources today. And Saudi Arabia will host Ukraine Peace Summit without Russia. Putin does not reject possibility of peace talks. And that's all from the newsroom for the moment. Thank you for being with us. Khudafis.